Hey everybody, it's time for another car devotion, and we've been going through a series recently in our car devotions of spiritual indicators. And the indicator that I wanted to talk about today is the idea that as we grow closer to God, we begin to love more people. We begin to love people that Jesus loved, and we love them the way that Jesus loved them. You know, sometimes in our lives we don't love people for different reasons. Maybe they've done something to us specifically, and so we hold that against them. Maybe we've been taught not to love somebody or not to love a group of people, and so we've just been kind of ingrained in the idea that a person or a group of people is not somebody that we should love. Or maybe it's as simple as we don't love somebody, but not necessarily out of choice, but just because we don't notice them and they're not on our radar, at all. John Wesley, who founded the Methodist movement and later the Methodist Church, he talked about two types of sins: the sin of commission, and sometimes we sin in commission in not loving somebody because we choose not to love them. But John Wesley also talked about the sin of omission, the sin that we just left undone. It's not necessarily that we made a conscious choice, but we just didn't do it. And sometimes it's like that in our love for other people. It's not necessarily that we see somebody and say, I'm not going to love you. It's just that we don't even see them. They're not even on our radar. So as we grow closer to God, we begin to love more people. We begin to love the people that God loved, who is everybody, and we love them the way that God loves them. Jesus was talking to some people one time, and people often tried to catch Jesus up and trip him up. And they were talking to him in Luke chapter 10 about how someone, what's the greatest commandment? How do we enter, heaven and things like that? And Jesus tells them that to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And then the second is to love your neighbor as yourself. And so they followed up a question with him and said, well, who's my neighbor? And Jesus tells them the story that we oftentimes refer to as the story of the Good Samaritan, about a man who's walking down the road, and he's traveling, and some robbers come along and they beat him up, take his possessions, and leave him for dead. And so Jesus tells them that there's three people who walk by. There's a priest who comes along and sees the man, and he moves over to the other side of the road, because if priest were to do that, all of a sudden now the priest is unclean and he has to go through these ritual rites to re-cleanse himself. And then there's a man, a Levite, who's walking down the road, and similar story, he moves to the other side of the road so he doesn't have to deal with him. And these first two people, it's a story of inconvenience. They didn't want to be bothered with helping someone. You think about a priest particularly, and if anybody should help somebody, it should be a priest, right? And so that's the reality, though, is a lot of times when we help somebody, it causes an inconvenience for us. Well, then there's this third person who's walking down the road, and it's a Samaritan. And all you need to know about this is that out of the group of people, out of the three people, the Samaritan should be the least likely to help this person because of kind of the cultural norms. Yet this Samaritan is the one who stops to help this person. He stops and he helps him. He lends aid to him, gives him first aid, whatever it is, and helps him out. And then he takes him to an inn, and he puts him up in this inn, this hotel, if you want to think about it like that. And he goes to the innkeeper and he says, hey, can you take care of this man, and I'm going to pay you for it. And so then he says, not only that, as you take care of this man, I'm going to come back through, and if there's anything else I need to pay for, let me know, and I'll take care of that as well. So he helps him, he pays the bill, and then he pays the future bill for him. And Jesus looks at these people and he says, so which one of these people was his neighbor? And that's the reality. when we help other people, sometimes it costs us our time. Sometimes it inconveniences us. A lot of time it inconveniences us. Sometimes it costs us financial, obligations to someone. But the fact of the matter is that as we grow closer to God, as we grow closer to Jesus, we begin to love people the way that Jesus loved them. And sometimes that means inconvenience. Sometimes it means, reaching into our pocket, into our bank account and helping them. But the question remains for us, who is our neighbor, and how are we treating them? Are we, as a result of our relationship with God, loving people more and loving them the way that Jesus loved them? I remember years ago I was on a mission trip at a church I was working in, and one of the men in our group he volunteered to work in somebody's bathroom in their home and kind of redo it during the week. And he told me stories during the week of just how bad it was and how nasty it was. And at the end of the week, he told me, he said, Jared, before this week, I wouldn't have been able to do that for somebody. There's no way I could have stood going in there and smelling the things I smelled. And he just said it was just a horrible situation. He said, but God showed me something this week, and God grew me this week. Because he grew closer to God, he loved more people, and he loved them the way that Jesus loved them. So what about you today? As a result of your relationship with God and growing closer to God, are you loving more people, and are you loving them the way that Jesus loved them? I hope you have a great day today. Think about that spiritual indicator and the others that we've talked about. Give us a like and a share and a follow. Tell your friends about us. You can find us on Facebook, which is probably how you're using this, on YouTube as well. And then we're also on Instagram, the Emmaus Road Project. And I hope you have a great day today. Take care, and God bless you. Bye-bye.